Total War games, then you're missing out on some of the deepest strategy gaming around.
Yes, and if you've never tried Total War, Rome 2 is a great place to start because it is easily the most refined Total War game yet. Although we do say that every time there is a new Total War game.
Yeah, we do, but I think this is the biggest revamp the series has seen in a while. In fact, the list of changes and improvements is so long, I don't think we'll be able to get through them all, but we'll try and touch on some of the major points.
There is a handy prologue campaign, which is a decent tutorial for newcomers and veterans alike, and it takes you through the basics and most of the changes.
I, Gaius Fulvius Silanus, have hurried south with my meager command to aid the consul.
And it stars Mark Strong as the main character, and he's pretty good.
Yeah, I find his voice instantly recognisable, and he's perfect for this. After the tutorial, it's time to get into the real meaty goodness, the grand campaign. Unlike the original Rome, as you start, you're free to choose from a whole range of factions other than Romans. But we still went with them anyway, since, you know, it's called Rome 2.
Yeah. But then, just like the original Rome, you have to choose from one of 3 families, each with their own perks and problems.
And unlike previous games, there are actually 3 possible victory conditions now, either through military, economic, or cultural victories. And there's no turn limit, which I loved. It's just great to be free of that and have a few more avenues to victory open to you.
The map is broken up into various provinces, but rather than the old way of 1 city per province, each now has anywhere from 2 to 4 towns. One is always a larger capital city, which has high city walls and defences, whereas others are smaller exposed settlements.
This may sound minor, but it actually changes a lot.
Yeah.
Each province is basically the sum of its parts, so the buildings in each town support the others. It just gives you a lot more freedom to balance out the needs of that province.
Yeah, and it makes the interface much more streamlined. While you could have 20 odd cities to look after, you only need to look through 5 menus to glance at how each one is going. And if you know Total War, 5 menus is pretty good.
Yeah, it's quite conservative, really. Menu management is really important in a game like this. Anyone who's ever grown a massive empire in a Total War game will testify to how much of a time saver that can be. Also, all the buildings are helpfully color-coded, pink for culture, green for food, that kind of thing. So it's much easier to see what's going on in each province.
The other big change is how armies work. Now you have to raise a general and then use the general to recruit units. And there are a limited number of generals you can field depending on how big your empire is. So you only ever have a few major armies to worry about. Also, as your armies fight, they rank up and gain some solid bonuses. So even once your general dies, your fighting force remains seriously tough.
Yeah, and to balance out the limited armies, each town can field a fairly substantial garrison force if it gets attacked. So now you don't have to worry about having little armies everywhere eating away at your finances, leaving you free to focus on the big picture strategies.
Navies have also had some big changes. Just like armies, you need to raise an admiral and then recruit ships through him. But best of all, your armies actually don't need navies to travel by sea. You can simply order them to move over water and they'll automatically jump on some basic boats. But of course, if they run into some actual battleships, then they're going to be in some serious trouble.
Plus, for the first time ever, land and sea battles merge. You can assault a port through sea and land your forces on the coast.
It also means navies just aren't limited to blockading anymore, but can actually capture cities on their own.
Well done.
Having said all that, I do find the naval combat a bit hard to handle. It's just not as much fun as the land battles.
I don't know, it's kind of cool watching all the boats ram into each other. But yeah, I got to the point where I just started auto-resolving all my naval fights since the AI seems to do a better job of it than I would.
It's always tempting, isn't it? Speaking of AI, I like now that you can actually get AI to look after certain groups of units, and they have a whole bunch of strategies too, such as attacking or defending.
The men are wavering.
I really liked that because you can let a group just look after themselves while you go focus on another part of the battle.
Yeah, and it's great that you can now assign stances to armies and navies in the campaign map.
We hunger for battle.
For example, one lets you force march an army, which doubles their movement,
Master, curse you all.
but it means they can't attack on that turn.
Our voyage is done.
Or you can set them up to fortify a position, or even set up an ambush.
We're under attack. Look to the eagle.
They just open up a whole new range of tactical options.
There's also edicts that you can issue over a province if you control it. One, for example, is the Bread and Games Edict, which makes everyone happy and gives the province a boost to public order, while another simply raises the taxes you collect. They're great for giving you more ways to manage your empire.
Yeah, and managing your empire is a lot easier in general, I thought. You know, I was always getting a fair amount of coin each turn, and once I had a decent-sized empire up and running, I was raking in some serious profits. You know, I barely ever broke even in previous Total War games, so that was a relief, although they have added this new food mechanic to worry about. Some buildings produce food while others eat it up, so if your empire starts running out of food, things will go bad very quickly. So while it's a bit more forgiving in some respects, there's still a lot of careful planning to consider.
It's so good to be back in ancient Rome. I just love this setting. It's so good for games. You get that whole sword versus spear versus cavalry combat, and I love the outfits. There's a particular thrill when you send your cavalry in to break up an army and flank them, and it sends everyone scattering. If you're a fan of the original, this will take you right back there. And I love how if you're smart in this game, it just really pays off. And War Elephants, Hex, so good to have them back.
Yeah, I just loved being back into besieging big castle towns. And it's great that now your city walls can get proper siege weapons to defend with, and how you can pour boiling oil on enemies marching through your gates. Ah, that's awesome. Plus, I know it's a bit of a coward's tactic, but I love just sitting back with loads of artillery and letting them bombard the hell out of the enemy before launching my main attack.
The walls are breached!
Hey, it works.
And I love that there's now that aiming arc when you manually aim artillery. It's something so simple, but it just adds so much to it. Visually, it's a very good looking game and it runs a lot smoother than Shogun 2. I couldn't run everything on full though, and I think I should have been able to, so I feel like maybe it needs some driver optimization there. But, great foliage.
Oh, beautiful trees and grass.
By your command!
There are a lot more maps now too, so there's even more variety to the battles than before. And there's some amazing detail when you get up close on your units. There's even facial animations on your soldiers when they shout out in battle.
I love the animations in the campaign map when you beat an army. Some of them are gruesome, but this is my favorite, where you kick a guy in the nuts. Even after 30 hours, you'll feel like you're barely scratching the surface of this campaign. This is the sort of game where you'll pass your save file down through the generations.
You're like a legacy.
Yeah, here, have my empire, children. I'm giving this 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I guess my only complaint would be that it takes ages for your AI factions to cycle through when you take a turn, but that's such a minor complaint in what is a tremendously rich strategy game with so much depth to it, so I'm giving it 9.5 as well.
The battle is turning in our favor.